All righty. It looks like we're right at 7. We can go ahead, and you're stuck with me again this week. Unfortunately, Marie is not here this week, so you're stuck with me again. I guess we'll go ahead and do a call to order and start the roll call.
All right, Vice Chair Andy Stakaris.
Here.
Maggie Burns.
Here.
Bryn Dunny.
Here.
Scott Gilbert.
Here.
Edie Hughes is not here. Dina Phelps.
Here.
Amy Wilson. We have Inglewood School Liaison Dwayne Tucker. Excused, we have Chair Marie Hotta and Council Member Chelsea Newnenkamp. Staff, we have Director Christina Underhill and Library and Cultural Arts Manager Bethany Lafferty. Okay. All right, I will share screen, Andy.
Okay, great. Next up will be approval of the minutes. Let us know if you have any changes or additions or subtractions.
Minutes. Second it.
Okay.
All righty. Did I hear a motion? Sorry, it started hard to hear some of the room.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I move to approve.
Great. I think all in favor?
Yeah.
Anybody opposed? Great. Look at that. Look at us being efficient. Doesn't look like anyone's on for public comment. And we will turn it over for the library statistical report.
Okay. Well, another full month of open for days of service. Physical visitors was close to 13,000. I'm not quite sure why there is no entry for August of 2021. I don't know if maybe the library wasn't open. I'm not sure. So I don't know why that's empty.
I think the door, wasn't that when the door counters weren't working?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, because I guess
Yeah.
these are fairly new. Okay, so that might be why. And then page views of the website in general and the catalog in particular are pretty on par, not a little higher than a year ago. Facebook reach has dropped a little bit. We've actually been kind of revamping how we're compiling information and posts for Facebook. So we're transitioning away from having a part-time staff member do the Facebook to the full-time adult services or like adult, librarian Corinne. She's taking it over for now till we kind of get a new framework worked out. And again, I included the Instagram reach just to start tracking that. And the same thing kind of applies with the Instagram activity. We're kind of trying to rework how we're going to target what we put on these different social media accounts. Total patrons registered 31,000, so it's a little bit over from last year. And then Englewood residents is 21,000. Our collection size is steadily growing a little bit. I think the month of September we're going to see a bigger jump because we did get a little bit more caught up with some of the ordering in the last couple of weeks. The stuff actually started coming in. So the stuff we order doesn't change our collection numbers until it's actually received. So we could order stuff a couple of months ago, but we don't get it. And so that's when that will impact it. So I think we're going to start seeing some increasing numbers there in our collection size. And then the overall marmot size is a little bit bigger over last year as well. Meeting room sessions was 33, study room sessions 190. We're definitely seeing a lot of usage of the study rooms. And I don't think we've ever had to turn anybody away for study room usage. We always at least have something available for a walk-in. But there are times when all of the rooms are full. Physical holds was close to 2,000, which is really great. Total circulation is steady, just over 8,000. I'm hoping to start seeing a little bit more increase in our digital collection usage. We're starting to put out some more information and flyers that the collections exist. Like near our audiobooks, we're putting stuff out about both Hoopla and Libby. So like if you're looking for an audiobook that we don't have in CD, consider trying this. So we're trying to kind of promote those things. And I think we actually have something now out about Canopy to inform people that Canopy exists for streaming video. So we have a sign near the DVDs as well. Let's see. Information services. So our questions answered, and again, this is like our just total interactions with patrons was 4,428. 2,096 of that was reference, 1,881 was at the circulation desk, and 451 was at the children's desk. And I will say that sometimes the kids' numbers are low because if there's not a staff person at the children's desk, they're coming over to circulation. So I'm happy to report that at our all staff meeting this Friday, we will be kind of rolling out this new system for tracking things with more detail, and that will give us a better sense of how many questions are actually for children or things in the children's department. Because even if you're at the circulation desk and you're answering a question for a patron, for a parent, you can indicate that that was on behalf of a child. And so we'll have a better understanding of how many questions we're answering for different topics. So I'm really excited to get that tool started this weekend. So we're going to roll it out Friday, introduce it to the staff, start using it through the September, just so everybody gets used to it. And then we'll like really officially start using that as our data in October. So our data for questions answered might be a little funky for September when we report that out next month. Will probably be like half of each, and I'll try to add it all together. So I'm excited about that. And then computer usage is still really stable. I forgot to put in the volunteer hours in here before I sent this off to Debbie, so I apologize for that. I am still kind of estimating these hours, so I'm estimating it for the month of August at 18 hours. But we're going to start instituting a process for the volunteers to kind of sign in and out so we know exactly how long they've been there, because sometimes one of the volunteers, sometimes she only stays for an hour, sometimes she stays for 3, and we don't ever really know. So I'm hoping that with better collection from them for when they're there, we'll have more accurate numbers for that. Children's programs are still going really great. 37 in-house programs. At just over 1,000 attendance. Outreach was just one preschool visit. And then, because I think that was like just starting up this new weekly preschool visit. So that was just 11 kids there. And then the teen programs, 10 programs with 83 attendance. Adult programs, we had 21 programs with 110 attendees. Incidents, we had 3 verbal warnings issued or recorded, because I guess we don't really give people physical stuff for that, but 3 verbal warnings, 1 ejection, which is just asking somebody to leave for the day, and then 3 exclusions where people were excluded from the library anywhere from 45 to 90 days. I think 2 45s and a 90.
That's fairly strict by the standards under the city guidelines. Why did somebody really get 90?
Physical altercation.
Yeah.
Does 3 feel like that? I know we don't have data from like the month previous probably right in front of us, but does that feel about on par or more or less? Okay.
I mean, honestly, we're able to, so this is the thing, some of these people also won't come back. Because once they're told they can't be here, even for 45 days, that's kind of enough time for people to kind of develop new habits, and they probably won't come back. One of our first exclusions, or one of our first 2 exclusions recently expired. And one of the individuals, he did come into the library recently, but was just kind of in and out, didn't stay. I just kind of saw him in passing. And then we have some other ones that are, we have a couple other ones that have been 90 days, because we had one destruction of property, and I think there's another 90.
Was the altercation a patron or a staff?
It was a patron towards our security specialist.
Yeah.
Yeah, he freaked out that we weren't addressing his problem. And when I was trying to talk to him, he just blew up shouting at me, and I was asking him to leave. And the security specialist came out to assist me just to make sure I was okay. And the guy came and got in TJ's face and just pushed him. So we called police, and they came, and he had warrants out for him anyway, so they arrested him. But we still were able to do all our paperwork. The police have been really great. We're getting this whole kind of format down really well with them. And like the more we kind of do it, the better we all are at keeping it up. And if we have people who come back in, we're basically violating their exclusion, the police are responding appropriately, and we basically say arrest for criminal trespass. And so that's what's been happening. I think we have a lot of more people now hanging out outside, not necessarily coming in, because we've kind of been really just consistently applying the rules.
Do you get exit interviews from staff when they leave, or is that not a library practice?
I mean, it's not something that I think we do. I think if they occur, it's something HR does. It's not that we do it.
HR will.
Yeah,
HR does?
yeah.
I'm just curious. I mean, people mention patron behavior when they leave the library.
Like as a reason.
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of specifically, and I don't know that I'm actually privy to exit interview details. I don't know.
I mean, I think that's not just that. Like my mom was a librarian for 30 years in a small town, and she had the same problem.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to have that for a warm spot to hang out.
Especially right next to the library station. With social technologies.
Any other questions about the statistical report?
What's up with Facebook? Is there something changing so that people have to do less clicking around to find what they're looking for?
I mean, I don't really know, like
Or is it just us old
the
people?
whole
Facebook?
concept of like an algorithm in social media, like I don't get it. I don't understand it at all. I think we're trying to figure out like a plan for like content, because mostly everything we've been putting up is just kind of like announcements. And I think we want to try to create a presence of having like content on our Facebook page. And so we're trying to kind of come up with a little bit of a plan for, do we share like bookish memes and things like that, or is that more stuff we're going to put on the Instagram account and stuff like that? And like, what are the kind of the age groups we want to target with the different platforms? So, and then I would like to try to have posts a couple times a month that are interactive in a way, that are encouraging people to reply with a comment about like, what are you reading this weekend, or whatever, something that there's going to be engagement, because it's not just looking at the post and liking it. If we can get more engagement in terms of people making comments, people sharing what we're posting, that would be ideal. So I think we have to create a little bit more robust plan for the type of content we're putting on there, and not just like announcements about what's upcoming. So that's what we're kind of working on right now. and coming up with something.
Do you have like a social media person, or is it just someone?
It's
added to
just,
their job?
yeah, it's not something that there's somebody dedicated to doing. And that's why the person who had been doing it, she's also been trying to work on the archives, and that's a really hefty job. So we've kind of given her more time to focus on working on the archive. And then that's why
The
Corinne is
library
taking
will
back.
close in 15 minutes. Please bring your items to circulation for checkout. The public computers will shut down 5 minutes before closing time. Please save or print documents in the next 10 minutes. Thank you.
That's why Corinne is kind of taking over, like, because she's doing like just like the bare minimum posting right now, but she used to do that when she was an associate. And then we're working, Carrie and Corinne and I are working on kind of what is our plan going to be so that we can have a more engaging social media presence. So in the works, in progress for sure. Anything else?
Also, I just want to ask you about Canopy. Do you think people don't know about it, or?
That's what I think. I think people just don't realize what it is. I mean, the name itself doesn't imply
It doesn't-
you can watch movies. And so that's why we were trying to find some kind of pre-made promotions from Canopy so we can start promoting it. One of the things I'll kind of dig into a little bit more in the action plan is that there are now live tutorials live on the website. So we're going to try to like drive people to that so that like, yeah, so like on our, yeah, on the, no, actually not on the Marmot part, because that's the catalog. It's on like the library website. Yeah, there's like, there's a tab that says streaming and downloads. And when you go on that, it has the different choices at the top. And then below it, we have links to tutorials that are live now. So people can kind of get a better, you know, overview of how to use these tools and use the resources on them. So we're hoping to do some more promotion in the library. So people who are coming regularly for DVDs, they can see that there's another way to check out movies. And then we'll start driving people to the website where the streaming resources are available and they'll see these tutorials. So. And the Overdrive is something that we can develop in terms of the collection in it. We choose what goes into it. Hoopla is a preset collection, and we actually pay for what gets used. So the more people use Hoopla, the more it costs us. So it's sort of a double-edged sword. Like we want more people to use it, but that's how we'll spend more money on Hoopla as there's more uses per month and stuff like that. So. Any other questions, Andy or Dina?
I think, I think really taking a look at sort of social media and how much time you're putting into it, and if you're getting sort of return on it, I think is important. Looking at some of your posts earlier today and things, I mean, even your sort of video story hours are getting 1 like and things. So I don't know if it's sort of us actively trying to grow the audience and bring in some new folks that are engaged, or if sort of we're stagnant. I don't sort of know. I know algorithms have changed, but on 1,600 plus people actually following it, the fact that you're getting 1 or 2 likes on even sort of your busy posts, I don't want to see you go through sort of all the heartache of creating a huge sort of social media calendar and content calendar to get 1 or 2 likes from the same people. And a lot of them are me, that every time I see it, I like it to engage with it. So I think most of your likes are probably mine, but I think it's, I think spending a little bit of money, I'm talking like $5 a post, like not a significant amount of money, will sort of help get it out and sort of into it, and not every post, but if you got some posts, especially if you're rolling out some programs or highlighting a tool, throwing $5 or $10 behind it will reach the majority of Inglewood for the day. And so it may sort of help you sort of reinvigorate it, because you're sort of falling into the trap of, if 30 or 40 posts have 1 or 2 likes, Facebook's not going to promote it upwards, and less people are going to see it. So it sort of just goes into a death spiral, unfortunately. So I think thinking about how you can get folks engaged is going to be the best way. I just don't want to, through all of this work and creating all this great content, if no one's going to use it.
Right, and I think that's part of it too, is like, what are like the strategic posts that we could create that we would promote? And that's kind of what we're looking at, or what are some of the things, because like right now, we don't really have anything that's like super special that we want to put up there and, you know, pay to promote, because it's mostly just like, here's what's happening for the week.
Right.
So we're trying to like figure out what are the things that are going to be upcoming that are worth doing a little bit more with. Yeah, and balancing our time with how much do we put into this. And, you know, I also, the staff seem to me to be really connected to having our own Facebook page, but I do question whether it's a duplication, because Parks, Rec, Library, there's another Facebook page for the whole, you know, department, and then as like a division of the department, we have another one. I don't know. So I feel like there's a lot of duplication, and maybe it would serve us better to be part of a larger kind of all-encompassing Facebook page that has some of our individual content in it. So that's another thing I'm kind of considering, and seeing if we can break away from doing things the way it's always been done. So we'll see.
It's hard because, you know, like right now when you are getting, you know, one like or whatever, it's probably because it's not in front of enough people. And so you have to be consistent, like use all of those SEO strategies to,
Right.
like you might only be getting so many likes initially, but you're rewarded by like consistency. And because I know like I don't get on a ton, but I never see library stuff come up on Facebook or Instagram. But I think I'm not a consistent user, but I think there's also like lack of consistency from what we are putting out there and how often.
Yeah. And I think that's what it is. Like, we don't really want to put a lot of time and effort into it, but we want to have a better plan at how we're using it and what we're putting in it. So that's kind of what we're discussing.
This is probably one of those really neurotic questions. I'm good at those. Wait, on the number of Englewood patrons, is the data drilled down enough to know that it really is people in Englewood, or is it zip codes that include Englewood? I mean,
you know, that's a really great question, because actually, as I've been house hunting, I feel like I see addresses that say Englewood, and they're all the way over here by like Havana and Arapahoe, and I don't know my way around that well, but I'm like, I don't think that's Englewood.
Yeah, there's a difference between Englewood mailing address and actual Englewood city.
Yeah.
And, you know, half the liquor stores and the fancy liquor stores by IKEA are Englewood address. You know, so there's you know,
development in Douglas County.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, I think it's based that, so this number is probably based on when they show it or provide their address, if it says Englewood, we mark them as a resident, because like as staff, I don't think we're looking at zip codes specifically. So I think, you know, that this number would include people who have an Englewood address. Yeah, so yeah, like if they live somewhere else that it still gets tagged with Englewood, like I think I'm in unincorporated Arapahoe, but I still have a Denver address, but I'm not really city of Denver. So it's kind of weird.
So it's most likely.
So it's most likely that I think we could potentially run a report based on zip code. I know I could do this in my old library in our ILS, but I think you could potentially do that to get a true sense of like in the city limits residents.
It'd be close.
I am sure someone in your tax database could run that for you in the Department of Finance. They're the ones that manage all the zip code and the tax payments. So I'm sure if you provided them a list, they could easily narrow it down for you.
Yeah, so I think that's something we could do if we needed to have that detail. But I think for this purpose, it's just strictly based on if your address says Englewood. Yeah. And I actually don't know how thoroughly, if people update their address, like say you were an Englewood resident, now you're to Littleton, and you've updated your account, but did we switch that too? I don't know how thoroughly that's being updated when staff might be changing things. I would hope that they would catch that, but I don't know if that's happening or not. All right, anything else for that one? There's actually not a ton of stuff for the action.
The library will close in 5 minutes. Please finish your work and head toward the exit. Thank you for visiting.
AKA, go home.
You're right. So one thing I will say, I'm giving a little preview on a couple of things. So in the general section for the Launch New Microsite and promote our digital collections, just kind of a preview, like I mentioned, there are tutorials on the website now that are live. There are 3 of them on the streaming and download section about Libby, Hoopla, and Canopy. I also started kind of tweaking the like computer and printing section, because I have some links for tutorials on just like basic computer use or how to use Instagram. The Instagram one has actually already gotten some views, even though we haven't promoted it yet. And I think then there's one about maybe Facebook and like starting a Gmail account. So like there's some basic computer use tutorials on that page that I'm working on. So that's kind of a preview that I'll have more details on next month. And we do have our meeting for the microsite with the communications staff member in October. Let's see. The first like real update is just in other improvements. The library supervisors and I were talking over the last couple of weeks about installing an additional staff workstation in the reference area. So that's at this desk that's right here in front of the windows. So we actually already moved the desk out there, and I'm working with IT to set up a computer and a phone, just get everything set up there so we can have 2 staff members there. And that will create an opportunity for that kind of freestanding desk that's kind of more out to the front, being the security station, so that we can have the security staff members out there during the bulk of the library hours with a dedicated space to be, just to kind of keep an eye on things, work from, walk around the library, and just kind of be a more obvious presence in the library. Because right now they really, when they're out there, they're just kind of doubling as like an extra body for the reference area. And this way, if I can have 2 library associates in reference and the security person, it's going to make a bigger difference. So we're working on that right now. And hopefully we'll be able to meet with IT sometime this week about getting everything set up.
I have a general physical space question, because I literally just kind of was walking around trying to find like a quiet space to work. And a lot of the tables, next to the tables, there's no outlets. So like I needed to plug in my computer, and I was like, oh wait, where do I go?
Yeah.
Do you ever like thinking about other people like plugging in a phone charger or?
So we recently actually moved an outlet. So by the north entrance, there were outlets underneath the display we had, and people would just sit in front of it. So now we've moved it to the other side of that little space, so the chair and table can stay on the other side. So we did relocate that. There are several spots you can sit at a table like on the library floor and still plug in. They're almost always in use. So that can be hard to find a spot. And then we have at least 2 lounge chairs that have access to a plug. We don't have any of the other lounge chairs around plugs, and that was more kind of a strategy for security and safety, because those were all tucked away in places we couldn't always keep a good eye on. I have actually.
Yeah, have you seen the outlets they have coming up from the tables there? It's like multi, yeah, they're really cool.
Yeah, I've seen tables like that, and that's definitely, I think, a thing that a lot of libraries are trying to implement. The hardest part is being able to have, like, so if you have a table like just out in the middle of the room, so like what we have in the back, there's not necessarily outlets on the floor that we can power up into the table. So it is kind of tricky in an older building to utilize the power that you have access to and create it into those spaces. This is certainly one of the kind of design concepts I'm keeping in mind as the city discusses relocating the Civic Center and the library. Yep.
The library is now closed.
Yeah.
We will reopen tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Thank you.
There was something I didn't even notice until we started talking about like adding this extra workstation, like a poll, because I think that's what the data has to come down for there to be a freestanding space with power and data for the library use. It's the same thing as a freestanding desk that sits up front. It's got this pole coming out of the ceiling, and presumably that's where all the wiring is at. So that's definitely a hard thing to kind of retrofit in an older building, is more access to outlets. I have seen like portable charging towers, or like there's just different kind of shapes and stuff like that. I would love to make that available, but I seriously don't think that we would be able to hang on to those because they would get stolen, because they would just be out, and so this is just not the setting to try to implement something like that. All the study rooms have access to power, so we often will tell people, especially if they're trying to work on a computer, how about if we put you in a study room? And so that's another way we kind of drive the usage of the study rooms, because people need that kind of access. So it's just a hard thing to do. Yeah.
I'm just thinking back to like college days, going to the library, and it's like, the study rooms were always taken, so you would find, like the tables, the freestanding tables, and just thinking about like what other people need and use. I don't know. So
yeah, I think you'll find in newer remodeled buildings that's gonna be available where there's power that comes up through the table. Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's just like a little bit of change to the physical space that we're working on. Another kind of like just preview about services for older adults. We will be at the senior symposium at the Mallee Center on September 21st, just to provide information about services at the library and also issue library cards. I also met a contact at the Colorado Talking Book Library when I was at CalCon this past weekend. And so we're going to set up some training for one of the staff members to promote access to the Talking Book Library collection for some of the folks that participate in our Homebound program, because we've had requests for audiobooks, but then they don't have CD players, or they don't use, a smartphone or a tablet to do the streaming. So we're trying to find alternate ways to provide audiobooks to seniors. And so we're going to start working with Talking Book Library to understand how to offer those services and get people eligible, and then kind of be their intermediary where we'll get the items here in the library and we'll deliver it through Homebound. So we're working on that this month. And then, the last thing was about outreach. We went to the block party last month, which was really fun. We were able to kind of give out information about programs for kids and adults. We had some giveaways. We did collect a handful of surveys, and then we issued 15 new library cards. That's pretty much it for the action plan.
What's the senior symposium? I should know.
It's like I was looking at the flyer. It says, senior or symposium for senior safety or
I
something.
knew about that.
Yeah. Then they have some different information that's on hand for people about, I think the police are going to be there. And I don't know if Christina has any other details. I just looked at the flyer and I cannot remember the other stuff that's on there. But I think there's like All Health Network might be there too to talk about stuff, just information for seniors. And I think it'll be a nice chance for us to kind of just informally get some feedback to like, do you use the library? Do you mostly come to Mallee? Because we were kind of informally talking about, could we make Mallee an official hold pickup? So like say you already go to Mallee a couple of times a week and you want to get library books, but you don't ever make it down here to the actual library. Well, we could set it up where you can designate your hold to be made available to you at Mallee. So we're discussing how we might be able to make that work, because that would be something I would really like to do but there's other implications to still have to check it out. So there's computer technology, components to the whole thing to making it actually happen. But I'd kind of like to get a sense of whether people would actually use it. So.
I mean, I know, I personally sometimes feel like I'm running a gauntlet outside of here if I come in off the mountainside in particular.
Sure.
Stepping over the pre-treatment crowd, so yeah. So yeah, maybe that would be.
And I think there's been some people that live in the, I think it's Simon and is it Orchard? Those buildings, like they don't participate in the homebound because they don't necessarily need that, but they don't necessarily always come all the way down to it. But if they could just cross the street and pick up their stuff at Mallee, we might increase the usage of the library among seniors if it was more convenient to them. So that's just something else we're kind of having the works to explore. Any other questions for the action plan? I know there wasn't a lot going on in August. It is, I mean, it's for children's, I think like the children's programs usually are kind of slow in August too, because it's like they just need to recharge after summer reading. So it's like May is, preparing for summer reading. August is, recuperating from summer reading. Yeah, it did start really early. But I think schools across the country are all starting earlier.
All righty, it looks like we have some library board budget left of $1,050, and I know that's sort of in old business. Do you want to talk about the 2023 action plan?
Sure. For that, I basically, one of the things I wanted to just kind of like draw your attention to in the existing action plan was, so like we're trying to do some marketing stuff, and I think that might be something we continue and carry over into the next year. And of course, the study of the library hours and services is ongoing. But in adult services, we have the improved access to local history museum, or sorry, I don't even know why I said that. Local history materials. This is not likely to be something that we accomplish this year. And I think part of that is because this was an item that was, considered and written in by a group of staff that are no longer here at the library. So we don't really even have a clear sense of where that was supposed to be going. And then I think some of the other things are all intentionally broad. The homeschooling thing was a very specific project, but just some of the other things are just kind of intentionally broad. But so what I wanted to kind of get a sense of just some feedback, and I can create a more formal way to collect your feedback, but I just really want to get a sense of like, where do you think the library should be, trying to make its way towards? Like, do we want to focus on creating, unique and, interesting programming for, various age groups? Do we want to just stay focused on being open with the basic level library services and being open as much as possible? Because I feel like that's where we are right now, is like just basic services, and we're trying to do this other stuff, but we just keep running into issues with not having enough staff, or somebody leaves that started it and it all falls apart and stuff like that. So I want to have a more succinct focus for where we're putting our energy, and I'd really like to have the feedback of the board members for what do you see from your perspectives, what would be the things that you would like to see? Because I feel like the Englewood Public Library isn't going to really be known for anything if we're just kind of doing mediocre work on a lot of things, which is what I feel like we're doing.
are you having to make plans around a lot of churn in staff? I mean, I kind of get that impression.
So yesterday, I guess, was the last start date for our new hires. So we technically are fully staffed now. It is my goal to stay fully staffed
Right.
for as long as
But I mean,
possible.
it sounds like that's a factor. Like, is there a lot of turnover?
I mean, I think there has been in the last couple of years, and I think it's been for a variety of reasons. Partly it's because the majority of the positions are part-time, and you're gonna have people that leave to pursue full-time work, or you have students that have been working here part-time that move on. And then I think, anecdotally, what I've heard from staff was that, especially last year, there was a lot of people that left just because of the environment the library was in due to COVID, trying to enforce mask mandates, and like those kind of problems really burned people out because the constant interfacing with the public and dealing with difficult patrons of a variety of backgrounds is very draining. And when you're working 20 hours a week, and those 20 hours are on the service desk the entire time, it's just, there's nothing rewarding and fulfilling about that type of work when you're just kind of grinding it out every day. So that's where I'm trying to get a sense of, is that what we want to offer? Is just basic library services, check out materials, have access to computers, do what we can for programming? Or do we want to say that we'd like to see staff being able to spend more time planning and preparing quality programs that actually bring people in? Because I don't think that the way we structure it now, we can't really do both things, because we have a majority part-time team. And so I'm just trying to get a sense of what should be our focus.
I would say personally, hearing like we're just kind of doing okay, like we're kind of mediocre, I would say my preference would be to like do the like be open and do all of these things that require being open, but do them really well. And then out of an overflow of, okay, we're doing really well with the basic services, like now how can we really provide great, resources and great programming to patrons. But I would say if we're just kind of doing okay with our basic services, like I would say.
Well, I think my opinion is that we're kind of just doing okay because we're also trying to do this other stuff. I mean, and granted, for the last several months, we've had all these vacancies in the part-time positions. Now that we have them all full, we need to give it some time to see how are we managing now that we have a full roster of staff, all regularly scheduled. We are going to have, I'm going to have a concern as we get into the new year, because I won't be able to allow staff to work any of the extra hours that they have been putting in this year, because we've had an underutilized personnel budget. When we start over, I'm going to be utilizing the budget from the go, because I have all my positions open or filled, I mean. So I'm just trying to see like what's more important. And that's kind of what I was kind of hoping to get a sense. Well, I guess my survey didn't really ask that type of question, but.
Well, I think, and I can't see the room, so if I'm talking over everybody, yell at me. Sorry, I can't see the room. So I don't know if someone's got their hand up, so I'm just going to talk. I think there's a couple things. I think these action plans have always been, I don't think, well done in a sense of like, they're not a lot of these goals are not measurable and not attainable. I think there's a lot of hopes and dreams in here. And I would like us to get back to basics, but I think there's a real big what if is, and maybe Christina, where are we with the potential move or sort of reshuffle of space, because everything goes out the window if that contracts get signed for everybody. It just changes the entire direction of where we're going.
So we're actively meeting on opportunities. Right now we're in a space study situation. So the Civic Center as a whole is looking like, where do we go? What do we do? The library is part of that, and Beth is involved. And so there's a lot of unknowns still. I think everybody wishes we could say it's going to be 2 years from now, but they keep saying it could be 2 years to 10 years. It kind of just depends on investing partners and interest overall. And so we're moving forward as if it's going to happen sooner than later, because if it does happen sooner than later, we don't want to be caught just standing there and not sure what to do. So it's a kind of a weird spot to be in for planning purposes. We're kind of planning 2 different paths: stay as is or move forward with the move.
Yeah. You know, I think my only advice as we go into this, I think succession planning has been lacking. I think we see these big projects get started, and this is not a knock on Inglewood Library. It's happened at the Denver Clerk's Office. It's handing at every governmental agency. Everybody's hemorrhaging staff. But I think launching these programs based on one potential staff person that is potentially not going to be here in 6 months seems unobtainable and tough to manage. I would not want to be in that situation of being like, here, someone's passionate about historical stuff and then hands it off to someone who's not. It's just not a good use of energy. But I think getting back to basics, and then again, I'm just always going to hark back to what does the community want? And we don't know because we don't have the data truly of, you know, do they want it to be a hangout space or an educational space or a study space or a maker space or a computer space or a, you know, unhoused person's space. So just thinking about it, you know, I look forward to the feedback from the board members, but I think getting more community data will help us sort of guide it and make your life easier, quite frankly. And with that, I will stop rambling.
I think the other thing I'm concerned about too is like how the staff are going to use their time while they're here too, because I want to try to create time within their work week to provide them additional training and stuff like that, so that it enhances their job and their skill at interacting with patrons or preparing a program or something like that. And then if they're going to be doing any program, they need to have time that's not on the service desk to plan and prepare for stuff like that. And then they have to deliver the program when they're not scheduled on the service desk. And right now they're like scheduled pretty heavily. Like I think we can usually give everyone at least 2.5 hours a week not on the desk. It's not a lot of time.
What if, like, ask staff what their passions are, and if there are multiple people who overlap, so that you're not one person away from losing that, maybe let that guide some programming?
Or even like do the reverse, like say, here's the programs that we currently implement, rank which ones are your most interested. That way you're not overextending new programs. You know, everybody has really niche and unique interests, but like say like this is what we have to offer currently. How would you rank your interest in each of these programs?
Because then, I mean, not only would you have a little buffer against losing one person and seeing a whole thing go out the door, but I mean, if people care, you know, if people are doing something they are excited about, it could be a disincentive to leave, you know.
Right, that's it. The other thing is I feel like a lot of them are not doing anything but service desk. So how do we engage these staff members in something that brings more value to what they do in their work week, that makes them excited about working here and wanting to continue here over long term? I mean, I get it with part-time employees, you're eventually going to have turnover every few years probably, but I mean, if the less turnover I can see, I feel like that's a sign of a healthier environment for working, and like more that we can accomplish with a steady work team. So that's one of the things I have a staff survey out to the staff right now about a couple of different things in preparation of our all staff meeting this Friday, and then next month our staff day. Like I'm trying to get some feedback from them on what are the things that would bring them more enjoyment and fulfillment in their work and that kind of thing. And so I guess getting a sense of like, what would you be interested based on what we currently offer? Because I don't really want to create anything new that we might not be able to see through.
Space, like yes, like find these, but then like if there's something that we don't offer, like what else would you be interested in? So that way you're allowing them the space to voice those interests, but it still gives you good data on, okay, do we have multiple people that are into this program or this topic or whatever?
I think also this plan started, well, maybe it started, but in all the years I've been on this board, back when it used to be like the library was fully functioning before COVID. There was time for special projects, the manager encouraged it, and there was like 5 things.
Yeah.
Somehow, I don't know how it turned into 11 things.
Yeah.
I think just over new managers, like people just kept having stuff. They would like repeat things some years and some years like drop things off. But I think you could have like, if you wanted a goal for, maintaining the happiness of your part-time people, like maybe something for the service desk, maybe easily be one total on here out of 5. So, giant project.
11's a big number.
Yeah,
So for
right.
reference, we're getting ready to roll out the strategic next conversations about the 5-year strategic plan of the school district.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, and that's the other thing I'm trying to do too, as a new Englewood employee, learning more about the mission, vision, and values of the city as a whole. How do I help integrate that into what the library is doing and let that guide us as well? So that we're like a cohesive part of the city overall, and then embodying those things that we want to exemplify as a city within the public library. So that's the other part that I'm trying to bring into how the library supervisors and I will like draft a new thing, because that's what we're working on right now through the end of the year. So kind of like in December, I can say, here's the plan for the next year instead of in March. So that's my goal, is to have some kind of document. And I was kind of feeling like that. I'm like, I don't want to make it so big, but like, it's supposed to be this big. So that's reassuring to kind of hear that it historically hasn't been this long.
I think, can we add this? Because I feel like this is a good discussion topic for a while. I feel like we don't get a lot of meaty sort of discussion things to dive into a lot of the times. Could we add this to the next couple agendas just to make sure we're all sort of have time to think and ponder on this, so we're not just sort of one and done on this subject?
That way, as you like meet with supervisors and kind of hone in this, like, you have the space and the time to bounce that off of.
Yeah, I wonder if as part of the action plan discussion for the current year, can we have like a standing discussion item where it's discussion for the next year's plan, or does that need to continuously be an old business? I don't know how that, it doesn't matter. Okay. But yeah, Andy, I think that's a really great idea to keep the conversation, because then everybody each month might encounter some different things that will help kind of inform and guide it. So I'm just trying to think about things in a different way.
And I would just kind of like reiterate when you ask the question, like, what's our input on what to do? Like, being open is like library services, like basic library services. That's like the foundation of what a library is. So if we're just kind of doing those, like, I just don't think we're going to do anything else really well. So I think if we're not doing those basic things that a library should offer a community well, then.
And that's the thing that's been happening since we've been short-staffed, like on the weekends, like not this past Saturday, the Saturday before, there was 3 staff members here all day on Saturday. Like, there's not anything we can accomplish besides keeping the library open. Like, we can't do anything more than that. And that's the thing I feel like in the library world, people always are super excited about doing programming because it's fun and it's fulfilling and you get to kind of explore your interests a little bit, but we don't really have the room to do that, or at least we haven't. And that's where I'm thinking if we can really see, even with a full staff, can we do it, well, or are we still just barely doing the basic services? So, I don't know.
Does that help?
Yeah, no, it does. And I feel like that's the thing I'm looking for, is like kind of from a community perspective, like what's important for the public, for the Englewood Public Library to provide. Is it as much service hours as possible? Is it, higher quality, unique programming? I don't know.
Me personally, I think the more more hours, the better.
I mean, I don't know that we can manage any more hours right
But I
now,
mean, like,
but
but that's a big
Yeah.
priority.
I have done a initial analysis of open hours of various libraries in the area. We are open more hours per week than every single Denver Public Library branch.
That's kind of trouble.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's the thing too, like, I mean, it's kind of a lot to put on a small library and the expectation of a small library providing services when other metro libraries are closed, and like trying to like think we're filling the gap that those citizens are having from their library. It's a burden that I can't really like purposely say we're taking on. Like the focus has to be on our immediate community and the needs there. But, and I think looking at some of the larger systems, it's kind of a mix with like Arapahoe libraries. We have comparable hours to some, less than some, more than some, and the same thing I think with Aurora Public Library, and I don't think I looked at Jefferson County because it's a little bit further out, but like Douglas County, and then like Westminster and Littleton I looked at because they're similar types of libraries to us. Littleton does have more hours. Westminster has more also, I believe. So.
I mean, just to the extent that I'm bigger in the landing field, but I think hours of access are important.
For the folks that are in the room, we're having a hard time hearing if there's a couple folks talking. So if you can either speak up or
Sorry.
get closer to the speaker, that'd be helpful.
That actually just reminded me of one other thing I was going to say about like, what is our focus going to be? Because I'd rather like be known for excellent customer service and like things that we offer in terms of, you know, you can always find the book you're looking for at Englewood, or they'll help, you know, the staff will help you find it or whatever. Like, I'd rather have like excellent customer service and be known for that if that's what we want to focus on. And like, maybe we don't have a ton of programming because we just don't really have the support and staff to do it right now. But yeah, I don't want to be just mediocre at a lot of things. I want to be really good at something. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get a sense of. Where should we put that energy?
Hours in customer service.
Yeah.
I just want to be aware of everyone's time. I know we're getting on to 8 o'clock. So is there anything else we really want to touch on before we start sort of winding down for the night?
Did you want to?
Oh, update about the budget?
Yes.
Is that what you're going to say? Yeah, that was just an update to say of the remaining funds, and that's what I needed was my calculator. I think it's, make sure I say it correctly. No, I think it's $750. So like $750 was going to be split up between various programs that are coming up, including the trunk or treat, the jamboree, and I feel like Tim really said one other youth, maybe it was like one of the teen after hours later on this year. And then the other part would be going towards staff development, whether it's our staff day, or we might have a speaker or something come in, or some other things that will go towards just, you know, a staff training of some kind. And so that's how we'd split up the rest. And then as we spend it, update the details. And it's like we incur those events, I guess.
I am thoroughly confused now.
Yeah, so it's still kind of broad. So it's like the 750 for like youth programming,
Right.
which would be a variety of programs, and then 300 for staff development,
Okay,
or some kind of staff support.
and that would burn through.
That would be the rest. That would be it.
Is that already approved? Or do we
I
need to
don't
make a motion on
recall that being.
You know, I don't know of any other projects or things that will come up.
I don't want to end up buying 10,000 candy canes like we've done.
Oh. Wait, so we do need to still make a motion?
It sounds like. it.
Yeah,
I think so.
You do.
Yeah. I'll make a motion that we're gonna spend the things that you just proposed. So $750 for youth programs, $300 for staff development. Can you hear us, Andy?
Nope, we can't hear you.
I made a motion to spend the rest of the money.
All right, Big Daddy Warbucks spending all the money. I see how, I'm not even in the room and you're spending all our money. I see how it is.
It was proposed by Bethany and it was 700.
So did we get a second?
And then 3 for, what was
Staff
that?
development.
Staff.
Okay.
And she seconded it.
Brent seconded.
Great. All in favor of spending all of our money on youth programming and professional development? Anyone opposed? Great. Look at us be efficient. Moving on to staff's choice while I still have your attention for a little bit longer. All right.
I was just gonna make an announcement that we're doing our all staff meeting on Friday and we will be open at 11 a.m.
Great.
Okay, and Marie wanted to talk about a tour, like at the October meeting. I don't know if we could work that in within the
Would you
meeting.
want to do that beforehand? Or would you like to do it at the end? Because then we can walk through the library, talk, ask questions when nobody's here.
Yeah.
Because that might actually be a little bit better to do.
Yeah.
Or try to time it like at 7:45, start a tour maybe, I don't know.
I think for everyone's sake, I think let's try to start it at 7:45. Just because I know folks at 8 o'clock start fading. I see it on people's faces when I'm there. So I think if we could try to have a sort of a shorter meeting, and I think that sort of ties quickly into something I want to talk about real quick. I would like to start sort of having folks read the statistical report before they attend the meeting, so we don't have to go line by line through it, and maybe just, you know, sort of the staff highlight a couple things, but you know, we as board members should be prepared and not have to be read line by line through some of this stuff. So that's sort of my personal ask, is if take 5 minutes and look through and bring questions. But I think the statistical report's taking up 15-ish, 20 minutes of each meeting, and just want to sort of be cognizant of that for some of the deeper discussions and people's brains fading by 8 o'clock. So that's going to sort of be my ask of everyone is please just sort of take a look, and let's look at sort of what jumps out at us in the report. And I think that'll leave more time for some of the other fun stuff. Anything from school board?
Yes, so I talked to you guys at least once about the strategic plan we're working on, and shamelessly recruited somebody here at the table to participate in that. So we are going to, there'll be an announcement going out Thursday from the district to all of our media sources. If you're connected on the listserv or any of the other pushes we do, talking about the, we're going to do a series of town hall events. So make sure you have that information for sure. And then if any of the rest of you want to come and participate, great. And then I guess the only other the big thing is we're also going to be starting a search for the next superintendent. Gave me the word several weeks ago that she's going to be done at the end of June. The good news is we have several months to ready for that. So at the board meeting next Tuesday, we're going to announce what that process is going to look like and start establishing a timeline. So if anyone's interested in that, we will have open forums once we, at some point during the process. So just those two little. That's what I have. Thanks, Andy, for the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have stuff you could email out to folks, I didn't get all those details as I'm frantically trying to find a pen. Sorry, I was ill prepared. I'm a horrible person.
Is it okay if I email school board stuff out to this group?
Yeah.
Okay, then yeah.
Just know any emails that go among, members is public information. So just a reminder to everybody Well, no, I know,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
just,
fair enough.
it's a good
Yeah.
reminder.
So yes, I will ping this group with at least one update on each of those debates, at least let you know where to go find more information. So, okay. Good.
Great. Anything else for the good of the order?
Not for me.
All righty. Well, I'll go ahead and call for adjournment at 8:05, and hopefully you're all having a lot better time than me staring through a computer screen. And sorry if I talked over anyone. I can't see faces, so I apologize. And we will convene next month.
All right, take care.
Thanks, everybody.
So it did not pick up, the video.